What if the most powerful thing you could do for your entire day takes less than 60 seconds? No special equipment, no expensive course, no complicated routine. Just 5 words. 5 specific, carefully chosen words, rooted in one of the most powerful philosophical traditions in human history, that you say to yourself every single morning before you do anything else. Before you check your phone, before you scroll through the news, before the noise of the world rushes in and takes over your mind. 5 words. That's it. And I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking that sounds too simple. That sounds like another motivational trick that feels good for 3 days and then disappears. You've tried affirmations before. You've tried morning routines. You've tried positive self-talk. And maybe it worked for a week, maybe 2. And then life happened and it all fell apart. And you went back to the same patterns, the same reactions, the same version of yourself you were trying to leave behind. I understand that skepticism, and I respect it. But here is the difference between what I'm about to share with you and every generic affirmation you've ever tried. These 5 words are not feel-good phrases. They are not sugar-coated lies you tell yourself to feel better about your circumstances. They are not empty positivity plastered over unexamined fear. These 5 words are philosophical anchors. They are pulled directly from the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. 3 men who lived in radically different circumstances, faced radically different challenges, and yet arrived at the same core understanding of what it means to live with clarity, strength, and unshakable purpose. These are words that an emperor used to govern the most powerful empire in the world. Words that a slave used to achieve a freedom that no chains could ever take away. Words that a man facing death used to find peace that most people never find in a lifetime. These words work because they are true. And truth, spoken to yourself at the right moment, is the most rewiring force in existence. Stay until the very end. Because the 5th word is the one that ties everything together, and it's the one most people never discover. Welcome to Stoic Zeno. This channel exists for one reason: to take the ancient wisdom of the Stoics and translate it into something you can actually use. Not philosophy as a museum piece, not Stoicism as an academic exercise, but living, breathing, applicable wisdom for the real world, your world. For the moments when you're overwhelmed, for the days when you feel lost, for the mornings when you wake up and you're not sure you have what it takes. Stoicism has answers for all of it. If you are new here, welcome. I am genuinely glad you found this channel. Hit the subscribe button right now so you don't miss what's coming next. And click the notification bell, because YouTube doesn't always show new videos to subscribers. And the bell makes sure you never miss an upload. If you have been watching Stoic Zeno for a while, thank you. Your presence, your comments, your shares, they are the reason this channel keeps growing and keeps going deeper. Before we begin, I need to ask you for one small thing. Hit the like button right now, not at the end of the video now. This single action tells the YouTube algorithm that this content is worth showing to more people. It costs you nothing. It takes 1 second. And it means that someone out there, someone who is struggling this morning, someone who needs exactly what you're about to hear, they get a chance to find it. Share this video with someone who needs a better morning, with a friend who's been stuck, with someone who wakes up every day feeling like they're already behind. This might be the thing that changes their trajectory. And if Stoic Zeno has added value to your life, and you want to support the channel directly, please leave a super thanks below this video. Every single contribution goes directly back into creating more of this content. Deeper, more researched, more meaningful. Now, let's talk about your mornings. And more importantly, let's talk about your mind. Before I give you the 5 words, I need to tell you something about the morning that most people don't understand. The morning is not just the beginning of your day. It is the beginning of your mind's configuration for that day. Think about it this way. Your brain, when you first wake up, is in a highly suggestible state. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thought, planning, and decision-making, is not yet fully online. Your brain is essentially in a half-open, impressionable window. It is looking for a signal. It is asking, what mode should I operate in today? And here is the problem. Most people let that question get answered by accident. They wake up and immediately look at their phone. And the first thing their brain receives is a flood of unfiltered information. Bad news, social comparison, other people's opinions, urgent notifications, things that demand a reaction before you've even had a chance to form a thought of your own. And your brain takes all of that in and says, okay, this is the signal. Anxiety, reactivity, comparison, doing this. 10 done, urgency. That's the mode we're operating in today. And then you spend the rest of the day wondering why you feel off, why you feel scattered, why you feel like you're chasing your own tail instead of moving with direction and purpose. It's not a character flaw. It's not weakness. It is simply what happens when you let the outside world configure your inside world before you have a chance to configure it yourself. The Stoics understood this in a way that was centuries ahead of their time. Marcus Aurelius didn't reach for the Roman equivalent of a smartphone the moment he opened his eyes. He reached for something far more powerful. He reached for words. Specific, deliberate, philosophically grounded words that he had chosen in advance to set the coordinates of his mind. In the Meditations, the private journal that was never meant to be published, the raw and honest record of a man talking to himself, Marcus wrote phrases every morning that served as his mental calibration. He didn't do this because he was naturally calm and wise. He did it because he knew himself well enough to know that without deliberate preparation, the chaos of the world would find its way into his mind and take over. And if Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, responsible for millions of lives, facing wars and plagues and political betrayal, if he needed a deliberate morning practice to keep his mind anchored, then so do you. And so do I. That is what these 5 words are. They are your anchors. Say them in the morning, and you set the coordinates for who you are going to be today. Ignore them, and you hand the controls over to whatever happens to reach you first. So, let's begin. The first word, choose. Every morning, before anything else, say this word to yourself, not as a command from outside, as a reminder from within. Choose. This single word carries the entire weight of Stoic philosophy inside it. Because at the heart of everything the Stoics taught, from Epictetus to Marcus Aurelius to Seneca, is this single, radical, liberating truth. You are not what happens to you. You are what you choose to do with what happens to you. Epictetus, who was born a slave and had no control over where he lived, what he did, or what was done to his body, still understood himself to be fundamentally free. Not free in circumstances, free in choice, free in how he interpreted events, free in what he gave his attention to, free in what he allowed to mean something to him. He wrote, "Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things." And that opinion, that interpretation, is always, in every circumstance, a choice. When you say choose to yourself in the morning, you are doing something remarkably powerful. You are reminding yourself, before the day begins, that today is not going to happen to you. Today is going to be shaped by you. By the choices you make. You choose your attitude. You choose your response to difficulty. You choose whether to react from fear or act from principle. You choose what to give your attention to. You choose whether to be controlled by your impulses or guided by your values. None of those choices are easy, but all of them are real. And saying this word in the morning, just this one word, begins to shift your internal orientation from passive to active, from reactive to intentional. And here is where the rewiring happens. Your brain is literally a prediction machine. It operates largely on habit and pattern. When something happens, your brain searches its history for a matching pattern and fires the same response it has fired before. This is why we keep reacting the same way to the same kinds of situations. It's not destiny, it's neurology, it's habit. But when you begin the day with the word choose, when you consciously, deliberately remind yourself that a choice exists between stimulus and response, you begin to interrupt those automatic patterns. You begin to create a tiny gap between what happens and how you react. And in that gap, as Viktor Frankl famously wrote, lies your freedom. One word, one moment of intention, and the entire trajectory of your day begins to shift. The second word, present. You wake up in the morning. And where does your mind go? If you're like most people, it immediately travels. It goes backwards, replaying yesterday's conversation that went wrong, The thing you said that you wish you hadn't. The opportunity you missed. The argument that's still unresolved. And then it travels forward, fast-forwarding into tomorrow's worries. The meeting you're nervous about. The bill that needs to be paid. The problem that doesn't have a solution yet. And while your mind is doing all of this traveling, your actual life, this moment, this morning, this breath is happening without you. You are physically present, but mentally absent. And that is one of the most costly things a human being can do with their time. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Confine yourself to the present." He wrote this not once, but over and over again, in different ways, at different times, because he knew as emperor, as a human being, that the temptation to live anywhere other than the present moment is constant and powerful. The past is gone. It cannot be changed. Every minute you spend turning it over in your mind is a minute subtracted from the only time that is actually yours now. The future has not yet arrived. Every worry you project into it is built on imagination, not reality. You are suffering, as Seneca wrote, more in imagination than in reality. You are borrowing trouble from a future that may never come and paying for it with the peace of a present that is actually here. When you say present to yourself in the morning, you are drawing a line in the mental sand. You are saying, today, I will live here, in this moment. I will bring my full attention to what is in front of me. I will not scatter my energy across time. I will not live in a montage of regret and worry. I will be here. This is not passive acceptance. It is not indifference. It is the highest form of engagement with life. When you are fully present, you are fully alive. You notice more. You think more clearly. You connect more deeply. You act more effectively. And here is what the Stoics understood that we sometimes miss. Presence is not a feeling. It is a practice. It is a choice you make again and again throughout the day. And making it the first choice of the morning, saying that one word to yourself before the noise begins, trains your mind to return to presence when it wanders. Because it will wander. It always does. But the practice of beginning with present gives you a home base to return to. One word. And suddenly, the entire day exists again. Not as something to survive, but as something to inhabit fully. The third word, enough. This is the word that might surprise you the most, because we live in a culture that screams the opposite at us from every direction. Not enough. You don't have enough. You aren't enough. You need more. More money. More success. More followers. More validation. More achievement. And then, maybe then, you will be enough. This message is everywhere. It's in advertising, in social media, in the way we talk about ambition and success. And it has created an epidemic of people who have objectively good lives and feel chronically, persistently dissatisfied, who reach each milestone and, instead of pausing to feel the weight of what they've built, immediately shift their eyes to the next horizon and feel the old familiar hunger again. This is what the Stoics called a disorder of desire, a desire that is never satisfied because it has been pointed in the wrong direction, outward, toward things that are never stable, toward things that can always be taken away, toward things that always leave you wanting more the moment you have them. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little who is poor, but the man who hankers after more." And he wrote this as one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He understood the trap from the inside. When you say enough to yourself in the morning, you are not settling. You are not abandoning ambition. You are not resigning yourself to mediocrity. You are doing something far more sophisticated. You are reminding yourself that your baseline is not scarcity. Your baseline is fullness. You already have a mind. You already have breath. You already have this moment and the choices within it. You already have the capacity to think, to grow, to act with virtue, to love, to create. These things, the Stoics called them the only true goods, and you already have access to all of them. This word in the morning rewires the lens through which you see your day. Instead of waking up and immediately calculating what you lack, you wake up and recognize what you have. Not in a naive, pretend everything is perfect way. In a grounded, clear-eyed way that says, I have what I need to face today well. I am not starting from zero. I am starting from enough. And from that foundation, from that psychological fullness rather than scarcity, you can pursue more without being enslaved by the need for it. You can work hard without the frantic desperation of someone who believes their worth depends on the outcome. You can move forward from a position of strength rather than fear. One word, and the entire emotional architecture of your day shifts. The fourth word, impermanent. This is the word that sounds heavy but is actually the most liberating of all five. Nothing lasts forever. I know, you've heard this before. It sounds like something written on a motivational poster in a dentist's waiting room. But stay with me, because the Stoic understanding of impermanence is not a cliché. It is a precise, sharp, practical tool for navigating life with extraordinary freedom. Marcus Aurelius was obsessed with impermanence. He returned to it constantly in the Meditations. He would describe great men conquerors, emperors, philosophers, and then note, "Where are they now? Gone." He would describe the most beautiful things, the most powerful institutions, the most seemingly permanent achievements, and remind himself, these too will pass. He wasn't being morbid. He was being free. Because when you truly understand that everything is impermanent, including the good and the bad, something remarkable happens to your relationship with both. The bad loses its power to destroy you. The difficult conversation at work, the disappointment, the failure, the grief, these things are real. They hurt. The Stoics never denied that. But when you hold them against the backdrop of impermanence, you understand, this too will pass, not as wishful thinking, as fact. Everything changes. Everything moves, everything ends and transforms. This hard thing will not be here forever. And knowing that doesn't make the pain disappear, but it makes it survivable. It makes it navigable. It puts you back in relationship with it, rather than being crushed under it. And here is the other side that most people miss. The good also becomes more precious in its impermanence. This morning, the person sitting across from you, this version of your life right now, these things will not always be exactly as they are. And when you hold that truth lightly, not with anxiety but with awareness, they become vivid in a way they never are when you take them for granted. Seneca wrote, "Omnia aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est." Everything is foreign to us. Time alone is ours. And even time is borrowed. Even the present moment is a gift that will be taken back. Say impermanent to yourself in the morning, and you walk into the day differently. You hold your frustrations more loosely. You hold your joys more fully. You are shaken less by change because you expected it. You are grateful more easily because you no longer assume permanence. This is not pessimism. This is the clearest kind of vision. And from clear vision comes real freedom. The fifth word, virtue. This is the word that the Stoics considered the foundation of everything. The one word that, if you truly understood it and lived by it, contained all the rest. Virtue, arete in Greek, the fullest expression of what a human being can be. Now, before you picture someone pious and rule-following and joyless, let me tell you what the Stoics actually meant by virtue, because it is nothing like that. For the Stoics, virtue was not a set of rules to follow. It was not compliance with a code. It was not being good in order to be approved of or rewarded. Virtue was excellence of character. It was the full activation of your best self, your most rational, most just, most courageous, most wise self, in the actual circumstances of your actual life. It had four components: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. And the Stoics believed these four things, working together, constituted the only true good, the only thing that no circumstance could take from you, the only thing that was completely and always within your power. Marcus Aurelius came back to this every single morning. He reminded himself, "My job today is not to control the outcome. My job today is to act with virtue in relation to whatever comes." He could not control whether his military campaigns would succeed. He could not control whether plague would spread through his empire. He could not control the betrayal of those he trusted. But he could control whether he responded with wisdom or foolishness, with justice or cruelty, with courage or cowardice, with discipline or indulgence. That and only that was his to own. And it was enough. Not because outcomes didn't matter, but because the only foundation on which a good life can actually be built is character, not circumstances, not luck, not the approval of others. Character. When you say virtue to yourself in the morning, you are setting your North Star for the day. You are asking yourself the question that Stoicism considers the only truly important question. Not, what will I achieve today? But, who will I be today? Will I be patient when patience is hard? Will I be honest when honesty is costly? Will I be courageous when courage is uncomfortable? Will I act from my best self, even especially when no one is watching? These are not easy questions, but they are the right questions. And the simple act of orienting your morning around this word virtue begins to shift the way you make every decision throughout the day, because you have already set the standard. You have already named the version of yourself you are committed to showing up as. And day by day, morning by morning, that commitment builds. It builds into character. And character, as the ancient Greeks understood long before the Stoics, truly is destiny. 5 words. Let's hold them all together now. Let's feel the full weight of what they build when they stand as a single morning practice. Choose, present, enough, impermanent, virtue. Read them slowly. Let each one land. Choose, I am not what happens to me. I am what I decide to do with what happens to me. Today, I choose. Present. My life is happening right now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Right now, I am here. I bring my full attention to this moment. Enough, I already have what I need to face this day well. My foundation is fullness, not scarcity. I move forward from strength, not from hunger. Impermanent. Everything passes. The difficult things will not last forever. The beautiful things deserve my full presence before they change. I hold everything lightly and everything fully at once. Virtue. My North Star today is not achievement. It is character. The only thing truly in my power is who I choose to be. And today, I choose to be my best. 5 words. 30 seconds of your morning. But the compound effect of those 30 seconds, practiced every day, with intention and with conviction, that is not 30 seconds. That is a rewiring of your entire way of moving through the world. Because here is what neuroscience confirms, and what the Stoics knew through pure philosophical insight. The mind is not fixed. It is not a static object that either has capability or doesn't. It is dynamic. It is plastic. It literally changes its structure in response to what you repeatedly think, repeatedly attend to, repeatedly choose. Every morning you spend in reactive consumption, scrolling, absorbing, letting the outside world configure your inside world, you are reinforcing neural pathways of anxiety, comparison, and passivity. Every morning you spend in these 5 words, anchoring yourself to choice, presence, sufficiency, impermanence, and virtue. You are reinforcing neural pathways of agency, clarity, gratitude, and purpose. This is not metaphor. This is how the brain works. And the Stoics, without the language of neuroscience, understood the mechanism intuitively. They understood that what you practice in thought, you become in character. That the quality of your inner monologue determines the quality of your life. That the mind, attended to with discipline and intention, becomes a tool of extraordinary power. Marcus Aurelius wrote it as plainly as anyone ever has. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not the quality of your circumstances, not the size of your bank account, not the opinions of others, not how things turned out, the quality of your thoughts. And what are these 5 words? They are the quality of your thoughts, made into a practice, made into a habit, made into who you are. Let me tell you something before we reach the end of this video. Something I want you to carry with you past the last word. There is a version of you that already knows these things, that has always known them, on some level. A version of you that is calm without being cold, that is strong without being rigid, that moves through difficulty without being destroyed by it, that sees clearly, chooses deliberately, acts with integrity, and finishes each day knowing that regardless of the outcome, you showed up as who you wanted to be. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is not an idealized image that has nothing to do with your actual life. It is the natural result of a mind trained with the right tools, every single morning, over time. These 5 words are those tools. They have been tested not in comfortable circumstances, but in the hardest ones imaginable, by a slave who had nothing, by an emperor who had everything and found it insufficient without inner discipline, by a philosopher who faced exile and death and found peace that most people in perfect safety never find. These words are not inspirational decoration. They are load-bearing walls. They hold something up. They hold you up. Start tomorrow. Not next Monday. Not when your life settles down. Tomorrow morning. Before you touch your phone. Before you open the news. Before the world rushes in, find a quiet moment, however brief, and say these 5 words to yourself. Choose, present, enough, impermanent, virtue. Say them slowly, mean them, let them settle, and then go live them. Before I let you go today, I want to take a moment to connect with you directly. This community, the people who watch Stoic Zeno, who sit with these ideas, who come back week after week to go deeper into this philosophy, this community, is something I genuinely value. Not as a number, as people who are choosing to think carefully about how they live. And that choice, in a world that constantly encourages the opposite, is itself an act of quiet courage. Thank you for being here. Now, I want to ask you something. In the comments below, tell me, which of these 5 words landed most powerfully for you? Which one do you need most right now? Which one feels like it speaks directly to something you've been navigating? Write it in the comments. Just the word, or as much as you want to say. Your answer might be exactly what someone else scrolling through the comments needs to read today. This is how a real community works, not just watching, but sharing, not just receiving, but contributing. If this video was valuable to you, hit the like button right now. It is the single fastest way to help this content reach more people. More people means more conversations like this one. More conversations mean more minds engaging with ideas that actually matter. Subscribe to Stoic Zeno if you haven't already. Every week, this channel goes deep into Stoic philosophy and brings it home to real life, to the moments that are hard, the decisions that matter, and the daily practice of becoming who you are capable of being. Share this video. Send it to someone who needs a better morning, someone who wakes up already behind, already anxious, already lost in the noise. These 5 words might be exactly the anchor they didn't know they were looking for. I'll leave you with the words of Marcus Aurelius, words he wrote to himself in the early hours of the morning, 2,000 years ago, in a world very different from ours, and yet somehow perfectly describing the work each of us must do every single day. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Power over your mind, not over the weather, not over other people, not over the stock market, not over what anyone thinks of you, over your mind. And that power is exercised every morning, in the quiet before the noise, in the space between waking up and reacting to the world. 5 words, 30 seconds, every morning. Choose, present, enough, impermanent, virtue. This is how you rewire your mind. This is how you reclaim your mornings. This is how you become, slowly and surely and with great consistency, the person you know you are capable of being. Until next time, this is Stoic Zeno. Live wisely.